Effective waste management is crucial for preserving the environment and public health by minimizing pollution, preventing the spread of diseases, and conserving natural resources. It contributes to sustainable practices, reducing the overall ecological footprint and promoting a healthier, more resilient planet for future generations. Presented in collaboration with the Greater Tygerberg Partnership, this Future Cities Africa episode is with Saliem Haider, Director of Waste Management at the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning at the Western Cape Government, and Candice Mostert, Founder and Director of Waste ED. We unravel the challenges, solutions, and the role of government and businesses in fostering efficient waste management practices. Saliem, Candice, welcome. Saliem, please provide a bit of context to the issues you are trying to address in terms of waste management in the Western Cape.
Thanks for the question, Dan. I think one of the key things is waste management is the key challenge is that waste management has always been very underfunded and under-prioritized in terms of what needs to be done in terms of managing waste throughout the province. And one of the key things we have actually encountered is there is a waste crisis. The city and the province in itself is fast running out of landfill airspace. Landfills is no longer the luxury that it used to be. And if we just look at the metro itself, there's only 2 remaining landfills operating at the moment. And one of them, Coastal Park, is also with less than 5 years of airspace remaining. And this is a huge concern because the question had come, where to are we going to take the waste? So even if the services are all there in terms of collecting the waste, where's it going to end up? And I think that is the sort of main problem that we are grappling with at the moment. So the luxury of just taking everything that we have and throwing it away is no longer there. And people would need to really change. And when I say people, we're talking about the entire system of waste management need to change drastically for us to be able to sustain waste management in this province, because we don't have, we can't be a throwaway society anymore. So issues around waste avoidance, waste minimization, waste beneficiation, these are all areas that really needs to come to the fore in terms of taking this forward. So, yeah, I think that is the one sort of key area that requires attention. The second one is also compliance to legal parameters within which these facilities need to operate with. And although the sort of standards that we set in the Western Cape is a lot more stricter than in other parts of the country, and there's a reason why we want to keep it strict so that we can ensure that we try and operate at the highest possible standards. This is not always met. And we're trying to do a lot to try and get municipalities and businesses or private sort of holders of operators of these waste facilities to comply with legislation so that, we can do things as intended so that we don't end up with environmental issues going forward.
Saliem, you've touched on some of the challenges, but what are the primary challenges around waste management in the province? What is not being done and what should be done?
I think the key issue is, so where are the problems? I've mentioned just on the periphery what the problems are, but, what is not happening? What needs to be done? And I think there's a lot of the education awareness that needs to come out. This is not something that lies in one sort of sphere or on one entity alone. It's a system, as I'd indicated, and this is right from the outset of when products are brought into being, and here I'm referring to circular economy principles. We need to ensure that there's a possibility, there is the opportunity to rather reuse it, beneficiate whatever product is developed, that we don't end up with single-use items that are destined for landfill once it's used. So there's a lot of product development that would need to come to the fore. Education and awareness for people in terms of what can be recovered, what can be recycled, and also knowing where can we take the things to, because quite often the communications out there are not too clear You may see a product that is got this sort of nice sort of three triangles on it, and people think, oh, I'm doing the good thing, I'm recycling, and then it ends up on the landfill site because it's probably only potentially recyclable. The actual mechanism of recycling it is not quite there. So where does that come in? So we need to work a lot with our PROs, and these are the product responsibility organizations. In other words, you've got quite a number of them that's been established through the extended producer responsibility legislation that's now kicked in. And this is only sort of 2 years in the making. So there's a lot of teething problems we're currently experiencing. But this is actually a good step forward in terms of trying to ensure that products do not all end up in the landfill, that they are actually beneficiated, that we do have good job creation opportunities, and that these things can actually go from cradle to cradle instead of cradle to grave as the bulk of the material are going. At least we're not back in the 90% to landfill where we were a few years ago. I think that has improved slightly. We're at about 20, let's say 25% on average recyclable or diversion from landfill, but it needs to really be increased significantly. We need to start moving away from our lifestyles that we are leading, and this is from the consumer. The consumer's got a lot of sort of influence. So if they start making their voices heard, I think that would be important because the retailer will then need to comply. The retailer can then put pressure on the producers and manufacturers, importers, wherever the product's coming in, to ensure that we have good, sustainable products on the market that doesn't fill up landfill sites as such.
Candice, Saliem has mentioned quite a few interesting points which I'm sure that you'll have comments on. You're also involved in a biowaste or organic waste project with the Greater Tygerberg Partnership. Can you also give a brief overview of this project?
I think it's very amazing to have a man like him as the head of this department, because this type of thinking is so vital for this time of our lives, in this time of the world. So I think the work that he's doing is really going to make a big difference, and it's what we need right now. We really are in a waste crisis. This isn't just, we're not doing this just for fun. This is a serious thing that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And yeah, the people like us and the work that Saliem is doing is very important in making some big changes in our country and in the world that hopefully will impact our environment in the way that it needs to be impacted right now, because currently the way that we are going is hugely detrimental to ourselves, to our planet, and it's very much linked to people that are not looking after themselves and their environment, right? So a lot of the food that we are even eating does not give our bodies nutrients, a lot of this packaged food. So it's very much within the product problem. So I often will talk about a product problem and a system problem, especially in South Africa. And I think obviously there's many different challenges, many different reasons why we are facing the challenges we are in South Africa. But as Saliem was talking about, we can look at, why certain products are not recyclable. And some of the time it's because it's a system problem. So because our recyclers, or because recycling falls on the private sector in South Africa, they are often forced or they aren't able to always recycle everything based on its value, because of the product's value, and also depending on the local recycler's demand, where he's collecting from. So that area might not be producing a lot of that type of resin, that type of recyclable material. And so by the end of the day, whatever he collects as the local recycler, if he doesn't get enough of that product in order for it to make money from, it's not worth it for him to recycle. So every recycler will be landfilling a certain percentage, even of recyclable materials. So that's kind of one issue, is this kind of system error, and I've seen it in other countries in Africa as well, with my work in Zambia, where, for example, lots of recyclable material, but just not the systems and the bulk enough to make it worth the recycling. So you'll look at other countries that are at the highest rates of recycling. Most of the highest recycling rate countries are at about 68, 70% recycling. And that's really the highest that they've gotten. So even as us as Western Cape sitting at 25, we can definitely improve our recycling rates. But I think what we're seeing is that there's a bigger picture concept here, and that even recycling itself isn't the sustainable answer here. The sustainable answer is to look at things that fit into a circular economy that don't end. And you can look at things like glass and metal that are quite well recycled. They can be recycled for a very long time. But then you're looking at plastic products that can only be recycled so many times. So at the end of the day, they will end up as landfill at some point, even if they are recyclable. And these types of things need to be evaluated and looked at. So like Saliem was saying, we're talking about the system problem, but then there's the product problem as well, where people are producing products that are either too small to be recycled, that are mixed with mixed materials, and therefore they can't be processed in a sustainable way, even just to be recycled 1 or 2 times. So definitely those things are very important things to work on big scale. But then what you're seeing is a movement of zero waste and of circular economy that has already been in other countries, but now we're seeing it here in Cape Town in South Africa. We are seeing zero waste stores popping up. We've got, I think, about 4 in Cape Town now, spotted around. And we've got Pick n Pay, which has trialed their first zero waste store. So this is very exciting to me, because that is really cutting out the product problems that we're facing. Reusable really is the biggest solution that we can focus on in terms of circular systems that then actually also include improving the lives of the individual, right? Because then there's opportunities for job creation and a lot of other more unique job opportunities. So very excited to see all of that happening. And that's just in comment to Saliem's conversation. So in relation to the Greater Tygerberg Partnership initiative that is happening in Bellville, we've been working with the Greater Tygerberg Partnership for about 7 years already on this waste education journey that we've been on. And we really hold hands with them as an incredible organization who is so passionate about Bellville, so passionate about the improvement of the lives there and the systems there. So we got involved this year to look at a facility to process food waste. We looked at local examples. So there's already some incredible trials, zero waste, food waste, bio waste trials that are going around in South Africa, one of them being in Durban with the local market. So we took a lot of experience from other people, and we started a small-scale composting system with a local food garden in Bellville called the Life Changing Garden. So this garden was started over COVID, and it's basically a food garden for the community that are coming off the streets in Bellville. This is partnered with MESS, which is a home safe space shelter, one of a few in Bellville, and it really speaks to the social issues that the CBD faces. So it's been really great to work with those local men and women that are coming off the streets, using the garden as a real space of hope and opportunity. And we introduced the composting of food waste as well as worm farm techniques in that little local garden. So we are collecting food waste from 25 businesses through the Better Bellville Together initiative, which was funded by the city, came straight from the mayor as a cleanup placemaking initiative. And it's just one of the quite a few prongs that Better Bellville Together initiative has. But the GTP Life Changing Garden was a part of that story. And as BBT, we started collecting food waste from local hospitality businesses, and as well as collecting the garden waste within the CBD that's being produced by the local service providers, and started turning it into compost for that local garden. They were buying compost before that. They often didn't have enough. And so now we're able to produce between 1 and 3 tons, cubic meters of compost per month, which goes into that food garden as well as being used in the public gardens of Bellville. So it's really just the first step. The capacity of that garden isn't huge. We wouldn't be able to sell the compost. It's really just a local food waste being utilized in a local way. So we're cutting costs of the delivery. We are increasing recycling rates by this food waste not contaminating the recyclables in these businesses. And we've used it as a trial to really understand what does this look like. And if 25 businesses can do it on this scale, and we can impact this garden here, what does that look like for the bigger Bellville? So can we work out how much food waste and how much garden waste Bellville is producing, and therefore also understanding how much compost the green spaces of Bellville needs? And can we work that out to actually create a circular economy system where all the food waste that's being produced in Bellville is being used in Bellville to create organic compost? Not only that, but can also provide access of organic food for the local Bellville community. So again, creating a closed loop system. And impacting the recyclables and the organic waste that is being produced in Bellville currently. So it's been a very exciting project so far. We've learned a lot, and we're looking forward to learning some more.
Saliem, how does organic waste play a role in the Western Cape government's agenda?
The Western Cape government has actually set some stringent targets in terms of the prohibiting of organic waste to landfill. These targets were set way back in 2018, and it was recognized that bio-waste in a landfill creates more problems than any of the other sort of waste streams because of its when it degrades in anaerobic conditions, it actually results in methane and carbon dioxide, and methane being 20 odd fold much more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, just adds to the whole climate change issues and greenhouse gas effects that we are experiencing. So that's the one issue. The second issue is the leachate that is sort of generated as is normally wetter waste, and this ends up as a pollutant within the landfills that could be contaminating a lot of our groundwater. And with the droughts that we've recently experienced, our dependence on groundwater is going to become more and more needed as we go along. So a lot of the old sort of historic sites do not have proper basal liners in place, and the potential to pollute is thus very strong. So the decision was taken to ban organic waste to landfill. It will be done in two phases. First phase would be to ensure that 50% of the organic waste is sort of reduced, that goes to landfill by December of 2022, and that 100% of it needs to be banned by 2027. Now, the unfortunate thing is, by the time these targets were set, nobody ever thought of a pandemic called COVID-19 that sort of did the rounds very soon after these targets were set and set back businesses, industry, municipalities quite tremendously. And yeah, I'm talking about the reallocation of priority funding that needed to come in. And a lot of this was a little bit derailed in terms of the planning, in terms of getting to the first target. So we only achieved roughly 27% of organic waste diverted by the end of 2022. However, it does not mean that we must drop the 100% target to lower than where it is. And the reason for it is exactly what Candice had just spoken about. The sort of beneficiation opportunities that is there, and the nexus between bio waste, organic waste, and food is so important and so critical that there's a lot of beneficiation that could be made out of it. So one would not only end up not one would not only end up reducing the sort of impacts on landfills and the negative impacts on landfills and greenhouse gas emissions and climate change, but one would also get the value add out of it if one actually just separate it and take it through a beneficiation process. The big challenge is, are our municipalities ready to be able to ensure that this stream is taken out of the waste stream? How much of the public actually know about this? And whenever I meet new people on their side and I ask them, by the way, do you know that by 2027 your banana peel may no longer end up in your black bag? They look at me with utter amazement. And again, it shows that the messaging hasn't quite gone through as fast as it should, and reaching the people that actually need to actually make sure that the actions is going to follow the targets that's being set. But again, we need to ensure that we drive it, that we get to that sort of point, and we've actually written the licenses of all the sort of facilities that they need to ensure that these products are kept out of landfill. Otherwise, they will be non-compliant, and yeah, action can be taken against. Look, most of the municipalities are in control of the landfill sites to ensure that we can then take action if they do take it in. But between now and then, they need to also ensure that they've given us an organic waste management diversion plan. What are they going to do with it? How is it going to be sort of separated from the rest of the waste stream? And how are they going to process it? And I think I'll come back to that point just now. But not only will it be good for the organics, just think about the remainder of the material that's there. So a lot of it would then be packaging waste and other sort of recyclables that would now be less contaminated if the organics is taken out, and you'd actually be adding a better value add to these products and also increase the sort of market value of the recyclables and other products that's there. So very little then need to go to landfill. So we're hoping to achieve this, and we are sort of driving it and facilitating it and sort of regulating it. But a lot of the hard work needs to come on the ground. Now, this is where I want to come in. It's that it's not just for municipalities to ensure it's there. This is where businesses also need to come in. We need the private sector to also come to the fore. And I'm actually so fortunate in the position that I occupy that you actually get a lot of innovative ideas and suggestions and, yeah, just wonderful sort of opportunities coming to the fore. And one of the key things from my side is to ensure that I put the people in touch with each other, that the networking happens. And just from this conversation, I've got two people I'd like to put in touch with a greater Tygerberg partnership that I do believe can actually even increase the sort of success that is being achieved to date. And this is wonderful. This is exactly what we need, because our public-private partnerships in waste management has just been abysmal to date. It's just never really gotten off the ground. And we need to work a lot harder to get that to get going. And we're losing opportunities. And I think from the study that is just undertaken, that was the waste management or waste economy master plan that was done by a national government. They have it's estimated that at least 17 billion rand of resources are buried and landfilled every year. And the idea from this master plan is to try and extract a portion of it. We don't expect to get all 17 billion, but if we can get 5-6 billion, that will make a huge difference to the lives of people and the economy in itself, if we just do things properly and do the right thing. And I think the opportunities are there. Maybe we've just been too slow to act upon it, and maybe the partnershiping hasn't been great. But it's this sort of initiative, like the Great Tygerberg Partnership. If we have 10 of these running, that's a tenfold increase in what we're doing wrong. And I think this is the sort of thing that would need to be supported. And I think my role would also be to ensure that I make the connections that do provide these sort of networking opportunities. And I'd also like to put out that we do have platforms for networking opportunities as well. So we've got one, which is the Waste Management Officers Forum, where we interact with all the waste management officers of all the municipalities and the districts in the Western Cape to bring to their attention changes in legislation, opportunities that come across my desk that they can consider for implementation or exploring it, at least just to see what differences can be made, and to also just bring on board the sort of private sector to help and just sort of get everyone aligned to the sort of thinking and the opportunities that we want them to strive for. There's a lot that can be done. We're just not acting fast enough and agile enough to be able to take it. And a lot of it lies in bio-waste, organic waste, because that constitutes at least 35% of the domestic waste that is put out daily by all households and businesses that are there. So that's your average. And I think if we can get all of that out, that's a third of the waste already killed off. So, that's a quick win. And we really need to ensure that we drive that process and get there. So yeah, I think in essence, great opportunities. One of the other opportunities that I can also quickly share with you is there's a company that's actually extracting all the fats, oils, and greases out of drains. And I mean, this is really foul-smelling gunk that you just sort of couldn't care less about, and just the smell is so nauseating. But they are actually extracting that and converting that into biofuels, and some of this is exported to the Netherlands. So these are the sort of opportunities that's there, and it's amazing what one can actually do with the organic waste, the bio waste that's there. Composting being one of the sort of big wins that is a lot easier to implement if you do it right. And I'm saying that because there's a lot of pretend compost also out there. That's not what we want. We want the actual real composting process to happen, where it's a scientific process. It needs to be done in the right conditions so that you don't end up with other sort of nuisance factors that accompanies it. So I just want to put that also out there, that if people do embark on these sort of processes, do it right. Otherwise, it does lead to nuisances. And just last week or 2 weeks ago, I was actually at the public meeting for complaints around composting. And we don't want that. We want people to do the right thing and do it correctly. And yeah, I think these are just wonderful opportunities that's out there, and we must seize the day.
Candice, zooming in, how does organic waste play a role in the waste management ecosystem in Bellville?
If you had to imagine what our future cities are going to look like, and how they're going to feel, we're very much in the type of situation where we've all just been born, we're on this planet, we're making do with what we've got, we're working with what's been done before us, but we also have the ability to dream, and to wish and imagine what we would like our cities and our places where we live, work, and play to how we want it to feel. And so that's really one of the main objectives here, especially within circular economy thinking. It's not just about waste management. It's about waste prevention. It's about resource efficiency. It's about human well-being. And it's about ecosystem resilience, and really looking at that in the bigger picture. So organic waste is one of those first things that we're using in the CBD kind of context to really explore these types of options. I think a lot of people are just stuck in their day-to-day mundane operations, and it's hard to make those changes, especially within businesses, within city systems, collection systems. So my experience working, in the Bellville CBD with the organic waste collection has very much been a creative one. One where we've really encouraged cleaners, staff members to really come up with ideas, imagine what they would like their cities to feel and look like. And I think we all are looking for something a little bit different. We're looking for something more real. We appreciate the business aspect of our lives. And the economic growth that we're all kind of working towards, but we also want real living experiences. And I think the CBD is one of those places where it needs it the most, especially with the types of things we can expect with climate change. Greening of the urban space is probably one of the most important things we can do to cool it down, and to make sure that those types of the urban environments are going to stay sustainable for what potentially could come in the future with the climate change effects that we're having. So really trying to use organic waste and green spaces to explore what the city can feel and look like. So we can close our eyes and we can imagine going to a local a little garden for some coffee. We can perhaps pick some of our veggies and things that we might want to take home for supper. We can have a nice relaxing time in this green space in the urban city. And that's where our food waste ends up as well, right? So, I think each area is going to have different solutions. I don't think there is the one and be all solution for each area. I think the solutions are local, and each community has to really look at what do they want to do, how do they want their area to feel and look, and the systems that obviously are going to work and function for the situation that they have in place. So For Bellville, there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of green space. There's a lot of parks that are underutilized. So this is very much big dreaming still in terms of really imagining Bellville as this beautiful green space opportunity, as well as an economic zone where one can have the best of both worlds. And be able to have access to good organic food, to have access to these options of actually being able to separate your food waste. So one of the things we're exploring is public separation bins, which to me just felt like a very important thing to trial in the CBD. And we did trial that with Better Bubble together in February with a separation bin system, as well as waste educators that are constantly connecting with the public on how and why. So yeah, it's growing, and it's going to grow to the pace of Bellville and based on Bellville's community and Bellville's needs, community needs, and that's really all we can do, and that's exciting.
Saliem, it's clear that solutions do exist. What can businesses in the Western Cape do to manage their waste more efficiently?
I think the important thing is businesses need to understand what their current costs are of disposal. And a lot of that can actually be significantly reduced if there is good separation programs within their waste management systems. And I know that these are not always the things that you worry about when establishing a business or running a concern, etc. And why still, have that additional sort of let's call it burdens to try and separate the waste. But if this can happen, one can actually ensure that your costs, because you're actually now adding value to products that's out there. So they're no longer putting out waste, they're putting out resources. And there's a demand for these things. If things are sort of neatly kept, neatly packaged, neatly separated from within their systems. I'm talking about the storerooms and waste sort of warehousing areas. Do ensure that there's enough space to be able to have a proper waste management system in there. If that can be done, they're not only contributing positively to the problems out there, but they will also start significantly reducing their costs. And they can also then start claiming good brownie points for being a sustainable sort of business, a green business as such, without greenwashing, because we're actually doing it. And there's a lot of parties out there wanting to access waste streams as such, or resource streams, as I'm now calling it. If people just take that extra bit of effort training the staff in terms of ensuring that things can be set aside. I know one of the trials that we looked at was actually with restaurants, where if all the restaurants can just separate their food waste from the rest of their sort of material, it will just be wonderful compostable material that would be available, that you don't have the contaminants in there, and there's a demand for it, and it will actually be premium streams coming through if they could just do that. I think the other thing that would be important would be um, for the and I'm talking about businesses that's actually doing waste management itself and also treating of waste streams, if they can just report on our system, which is IPWAS, and IPWAS is the Integrated Pollutant and Waste Information System, because without the data and without the information, we don't really know, whether we're reaching our targets, whether we're achieving anything, and also because of the sort of reach that we're getting there from potential service providers that can turn these things into opportunities. If we have the right sort of information at hand, they can easily do a quick modeling and put together a good sustainable option solution, so that we can actually tackle this problem and ensure that these sort of opportunities get to be realized. And Candice mentioned earlier, dream big. We have to dream big. We have to have this vision of a clean, nice environment around us that is welcoming, rather than one that is just, nobody could care jack about. And it's just crime, or crime begets crime. It's that sort of thing that comes into it. But if they know there's proper structures, there's a sense of let's call it discipline, and that people care, then that care will actually come through in everything that comes through. And I think these are the sort of key things that we would like from businesses, it's that cooperation, and also that cooperation with the municipalities. There's a lot of pressure on them now to start performing, and also with the and landfill fees are just going to get more and more as years go by. So we need to start taking that into consideration as well, so that it can act as a deterrent, and that alternatives can really be brought into play that can actually ensure that we go on the right tangent. So circularity in this country at the moment is sitting at the paltry 7%. There's a lot more that we can do, and this is going to be a full collaborative effort, not just government, but it's going to be government, private sector, individuals, householders, general public, every stakeholder that's there. And if they all play their part and all play their role, we can solve this problem.
Candice, in closing, how does this project that you're involved in tie in with the greater Tygerberg Partnerships projects focused on social development? And how can businesses get more involved in this project?
So the Greater Tygerberg Partnership has been doing absolutely incredible work in Bellville, in the Tygerberg area for many years now. One of the projects that we started about 3-4 years ago now was the first Zero Waste School Initiative. So we really were targeting schools. We started with DF Milan High School, and we were able to, after 3 months of doing education, working with the school, with a green committee, setting goals with them, we were able to divert 50% to landfill within 3 months. So they were spending 6,000 Rand per month on their landfill fees per month. That waste was heading to landfill, but through the separation at source, through creating a little depot, through training them on how to separate and compost their own food waste and garden waste on site so that they could actually use it, they were able to divert 50% of those landfill bins quite easily and save 3,000 Rand per month. So this is just an example, and GTB has continued to work with many other schools since then to look at, these types of systems within institutions like schools, which really can actually be really easy and be so beneficial in so many ways, like Saliem was saying, cost savings, as well as resources that can actually go back into the facilities. Another amazing initiative that we've been working on with the Better Bellville Together initiative has been trialing zero waste concepts or reusable concepts with informal traders, which has been really exciting for me recently. It really just gives a lens into a different aspect of the city, and how these types of changes can happen. So GTP's really just been exploring all the different solutions within waste management. They've been working with waste pickers for many years as well, working with the vagrant communities that are coming off the streets in Bellville, which is obviously a huge focus point and one of our social consequences or issues that we face with, that we can't forget and need to incorporate. So it all speaks to each other. And I think waste management departments and groups like us working with the greater community, especially doing things like going out and participating within your local community. So we just had a cleanup on Saturday, as well as a doggy social at one of the local Bellville parks. If we can all activate and actually believe in our spaces, believe in our communities, basically the same gees that the Springboks brought us, if we can bring that forward into just the love and passion for our rivers, for our environments, come out as businesses, come out as individuals, literally start cleaning up our front yards. I think we've all been in survival mode, and it's time for us to really come out and also look after our communities and our front yards, our front streets. And when we do that, we inspire each other, and we're able to do things much, much faster. So doing that, as well as businesses reaching out for assistance in waste management plans, I think could be another big thing. And that's something that we're also working on, is to support businesses with writing up their waste management plans. That way the city can really understand and doing a waste management plan really helps you as a business understand your own systems. So, like, okay, this is my minimization goal. So it's really just a simple document saying what you are doing with your waste now and what your goals are. And when you do a document like that, it's like a business plan. You help yourself understand your goals as well. So doing something like that is it's needed. I'd suggest everyone does it, as well as stepping out of their comfort zones and supporting their local communities with cleaning and greening it up as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
A big thank you to Saliem Haider, Candice Mostert, and the Greater Tygerberg Partnership for this insightful conversation on Future Cities Africa.